Yeah, so I'll start just sort of some context, a little bit about who I am for those that don't know me. So, I do like to start with my age. I like to tell people I've embraced the years. I'm 51 years old, and to me that's important because I want people to understand that there's 51 years of experience, right? There's some bookends there, the goodness between the bookends that I want to share, and so it has been a very interesting journey. I think we all have unique journeys, and when we share our stories, people find nuggets to connect with, and I think it empowers them to say, "Hey, she's human like me, and I can do this too, right?" And we can overcome obstacles. And so that's really how I believe in telling my story. I'm very transparent. I'm not a fancy speaker, nor do I try to be, but I want to humanize the experience and connect with everyone in a different level. And currently, right now, I serve as the interim vice president at and I do a lot of enterprise planning, portfolio, change management, and program management for the enterprise. It's a huge responsibility, but we help the organization enable them to turn the ship, right, when we have strategies and where we need to move. So there's a lot of great energy behind the scenes. And I feel very blessed to be in this role. As you know, I work for CPS Energy, a utility, right, which is a male-dominated industry. And even before this, I'm on my 20 professional in a professional role. My whole 25 years has been in a male-dominated industry. And so I've learned to navigate through the different just cultures and societal norms around that. And so it really has developed me to be more resilient in any environment for that matter. The second thing, as many of you know, I'm also the co-founder of I Empower organization. It's a women empowerment group that we stood up around 3 years ago. Yorka Caballero and I we realized that in parallel lives, there was this common appetite and need for women to come together, a platform and a sense of community. And so we built I Empower to help women to be empowered and to foster a culture where they feel safe. And I will tell you, we have an event every month, and we have one this Saturday. And even me as a co-founder, it fills my bucket because you get to hear these women speakers come in and they tell their stories, and like you get goosebumps. You're like, that's amazing. And they share with you that you can do this too. So it's that inspiration on a regular basis that helps you with hope and inspiration to that you can do it too, in spite of all the obstacles. So women in the I Empower organization is a very strong presence in San Antonio, and we continue to grow. And then the third one is I'm currently pursuing my PhD. I'm in my third year in leadership studies. My focus is emotional intelligence and leadership outcomes. And so I do plan to have my questionnaire out in the fall, and I hope everyone here in the audience is open to taking it. As you know, the more people participate in the study, the richer the findings are. So hopefully you all consider taking that as well.
I have a question about I Empower, actually. Is it solely for women in San Antonio?
No, it's actually an all-inclusive organization open to everyone and around the world. As a matter of fact, when we went from COVID, we were able to quickly pivot to virtual, and we started our organizations via Zoom. And many of our members, as you know, in San Antonio, we're Military City, USA. Many of our members moved because in the military themselves or their spouses to either Washington, D.C. or across the country, and they still remain part of I Empower because they were able to participate virtually. So that was a big plus for us when it happened. The silver linings of COVID is that we were able to invite people across the country. We had people from Vegas. We had even people from, I couldn't tell you, around the world, 3 other countries, Colorado as well, Washington, D.C., all over the country as well. So we just have this, it's this common thing around sense of a tribe and the sense of belonging that women keep coming back. And you don't always have to be a member. You can participate, pay the delta for the event. And it's just an inspirational takeaway for everyone, no matter who you are. Everyone here would probably benefit as well. So yes, we have a broad reach. I really strive to advocate for women in different ways. And it's really about taking action. I think it's great that we have these statistics. It helps us inform where the gaps are, where the opportunities, or where we're progressing, but what are we going to do about that, right? And that's really what I stand for, is what is the call to action for women in terms of opportunity to close the gap, and opportunities for just really in general having the resources they need to be effective in society. So my call to action is threefold. And it starts, number one, with organizations. How do organizations recognize and be more aware of inclusiveness and diversity, and really recognizing the needs of families, right? In general. And that means daycare, and that means access to resources. And so, of course, closing the gap, the wage gap for women. CPS Energy, Paula Williams is our CEO. She's done a phenomenal job. Again, this is a male-dominated industry, and if you look at our leadership, you've seen the percentage of women has increased significantly, and I'm one of them, right? I'm one of them, and so I'm grateful for the opportunity. And obviously, we're very capable. So, giving us the opportunity to close that gap is very important for organizations to take action on closing that gap, and it's going to take investment and time. The second thing I'll say is society, right? How do each of us here, everyone that we touch, how do we become allies and advocates for women? And that starts with recognizing how women think, how women work, and respecting that style and approach, and bringing it into the everyday world, right? It's really, at the end of the day, embracing the uniqueness of everyone, no matter who you are. Male, female, or binary, it doesn't matter. It's really boils down to respect and the uniqueness of everyone. So it's really stepping back and seeing, hey, what is this person? Is human, not just a woman, not just a man, but there's such a big gap with the women that we have to take more assertive steps to close that gap. So as society, we need allies, we need partners. We invite men to the table because they need to also help us. I'll give you a great example in my PhD class, and sharing about the challenges for women, where we were talking about, we typically don't ask or challenge or negotiate our salary. We typically, here's what it is, and we take it, right? And we run, right? Because, oh my gosh, we got it, and we go. And one of my cohort members said, really? He goes, you don't try to negotiate? He goes, I thought everybody did that. I said, no, that's the thing. We're very different. And so there's different things that we can do, either teach us to negotiate, but also women lean in to do it. But those are the differences that exist today, right? We're just not there yet. And then lastly is the woman herself. One thing I really try to advocate is, don't be a victim of circumstance or sense of entitlement. That's not the call to action. It's about, how do we as women lean in and take ownership of our path forward. And guess what? Success is not something you do by yourself. It's a team effort. And so having organizations like I Empower, having a tribe to be a part of, mentors, all that matters, and that applies even for men, but I really advocate for women to have those resources around them at all time. Because I can tell you, for me right now, if it wasn't for teachers, if it wasn't for my mentors, my tribe, I wouldn't be here. It takes a lot for us to get there, and having that support really makes a big difference in accelerating that path forward. So those are the three takeaways for taking action in making sure that we elevate women and close the gaps throughout society. It's a multifaceted strategy, right? There's no silver bullet to help accelerate this. We need everyone to come to the table. For myself, some of my experiences is really having male mentors that have seen beyond me just being a woman, right? It's about the humanity, the human and my potential. That's really how the lens that we should all be looking through is, what is the potential of that particular human, not woman or man, and then help them through their journey. And I think having that lens, Jason, I think is important. The other thing I will say, there are differences, right? There's tendencies for women and there's tendencies for men. And what I've learned ever since I started my PhD, I leverage a lot of data. It's important that I have reliable resources when I quote things or I reference information. So one of the studies that I read that really hit home for me is that, this is a generalization, by the way, so I just want to caveat there, that men typically are very agency. What that means, they're very pragmatic, this is what I'm going to do, but very, very matter of fact, and just go, go, go. That's called agency. Women are typically, again, generalization, communal, right? We're very communal, we're very caring and more empathy and et cetera. So you have those two sides of the spectrum. And so it's so important to know that those are the tendencies, but you know what the optimal leader is? It's a half, it's a little of both. So if we women can learn to be more, first find out where you're at on the spectrum, right? Because we're all in different places. But if I assess myself, I'll tell you, I'm very communal, right? I'm very empathetic. That's just, I'm very right brain. I know who I am. So my muscle that I'm trying to practice is building is agency. I'm trying to be a little more structured, not to be like a man, but to have that balance, to know which muscle do I need to use at the right time, at the right place. Same thing for men, right? If you're very agency, how do you build that communal muscle, right? How do you become more empathize more and work on your emotional intelligence? And so that's how we come in the middle and become better leaders as individuals, no matter where you are. So just understanding where you are in the spectrum and building the muscle to where, and it's not about changing you, but it's just building capabilities that you can use when you need them. Right? That's really the key takeaway, is building those capabilities to make you a richer individual, have a richer life with your family, and become a better citizen in society.
Thank you. This is so great. And thank you for sharing all this. You mentioned having male mentors, and it made me think of mentorship versus sponsorship. How do you advise women and marginalized genders on seeking mentors versus seeking sponsors? Because I think knowing about that is hard. It's hard to know the difference. And it's hard, I think, to find sponsors and people that'll really back you up. Whereas there might be a lot of like paths to mentorship that are easy to navigate and easy to understand, but finding a sponsor and finding those people that are really amplify you. I think here at Zpryme, we all do that for each other, but in a more traditional career path or just in life, I think that's something that really helps women and marginalized genders advance and understand their worth as having that person, because we internalize and we self-criticize and we have that voice inside, and it's really good to have that external person say, this person has value, this person is worth it, and their ideas are worth it. And I think that can make a huge difference. I've observed that in my own career. So how do you advise folks on that?
That's a great question. And I'll start by clarifying, to your point, maybe there's some people have a difficult time distinguishing between mentoring and sponsoring. They're very different. I will tell you, when you have a mentor, they're working on developing, some of your capabilities or where you want to improve. And it's really having a plan and meeting them at the table and having those conversations and having feedback. The sponsorship, the way I like to articulate that, it's more about, if you're not in the room, are they going to advocate for you and recommend you for things, right? And say, hey, so-and-so, this is Charlotte Strains. I think she would be a great candidate for this. Please consider her. And here's the difference. At the end of the day, when you have a mentor, and the mentor can be both, by the way, the mentor, and sometimes they won't. I will tell you personally, I mentor over 25 to 30 people over the, quarterly. And the difference, they're not going to be sponsored. Right? They're just not there yet. And I'll be frank with them, you're mentoring you're making great progress, but it's really up to that individual. Are you being deliberate about your development? And are you demonstrating that to your mentor and sponsor? That's going to be the difference, is you own that. You can't really rely on people just to sponsor you, but you own that. And you can also be very deliberate. When I talked about earlier about me building my muscle about agency, that's about being deliberate. So you'll hear me say the word deliberate quite a bit, because that's a mindset. I'm going to talk to my mentor, and here's the things that I want to develop. And I have a mentor today, and I have a coach today, and I have 3 mentors. It takes a tribe, but I'm very deliberate about, here are the things I want to work on, but also give me feedback, because there might be things that I'm not seeing. I need to understand what's the perception and how do I manage it. So one of the key, Charlotte, is really to have an open mind about feedback. It is a gift. Is it going to hurt sometimes? Yes, it's going to hurt. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, just, it's going to be rainbows and butterflies. It's going to hurt. But at the end of the day, it's about, what are you going to do with that information? And you made it safe for someone to give you that feedback. Sometimes, and I have a mentor before where I asked permission. I said, are you okay if I give you feedback? And I said, I want to be mindful of how you receive. And so I started to give feedback, and then I saw them tense up in the face, and I'm like, oh, I started not to feel safe anymore. So I paused, and they said, hey, I noticed you haven't given me feedback. I said, I haven't. Let me tell you why. I said, you gave me permission, but I don't feel safe anymore because you started to really react to that. Because, oh my God, I didn't realize it. So that's the emotional intelligence part coming out. But all that to say, be deliberate about, if you want to be sponsored, let their mentor know. He goes, my goal is to be sponsored. And they don't have an obligation to do that, but they know your intentions. Let me know what I need to do. What are some of the behaviors or actions I need to take to be in that space? So how do you own it? I think that's very important. Take ownership of your path. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you. That's awesome clarification. I feel sponsored by everybody at Zpryme, and I also am so confident in everybody here that I would sponsor everybody here anytime.
You're in the right area at the right time. So good
yeah,
for you.
Yeah.
I actually have a question. So, if somebody came up to you today, Mari, and was like, hey, I want to be better starting today, the minute we stop talking, what's my first step? What would you tell them?
I've been doing this for so long, Ricky, that I created a framework. And the reason why I did this is because I started to see trends and patterns from everybody, including myself. Like, oh my God, these are the common themes I keep hearing from mentoring over and over again. So I have this framework that's called the Individual Performance and Potential Accelerated Framework, a deliberate approach for deliberate results. Again, deliberate, right? So what I do is I talk to them to understand where they are in their journey, because I can't really give them any feedback until I know a little bit about them and really listen. And it's about active as a mentor. You really have to listen to understand where they are in their life and what they want, right? You may have an assumption, but you really want to listen. And so I walk them through the framework and I say, here are the 3 pillars. And it's really number 1, and I'll go with them over high level, and I'm happy to share it with everyone. Is number 1 is where are you today? What is your current status? And where are you with your relationships with people, with your manager, with employees? How are you? That's table stakes. Those are foundational things, because guess what? The next one is going to be brand, and the next one's going to be growth and development. If you can't focus on your foundation and you can't pass go, you can't collect $200. What that means is, if you work on your brand, on your social media, and you're doing this wonderful, but your foundation is not solid, you're undermining yourself, because it doesn't match, right? It doesn't match. So really, my first thing is to focus on their foundation around making sure that they're solid with their goals. Do you have the right relationships with your employees, with people around you, and stuff like that? All that really matters, and that's where we're going to start first, is really that foundation. That's the reality, right, of growth. It's painful, but the benefits in the long run are exponential. So it's well worth it. And if you don't get feedback, you're going to continue moving forward in things that you think are effective, and they're not. And you're doing a service to yourself and to everyone, and you don't even know. There's no malintent. It's just the reality of things. That's why you need that circle of feedback to make sure, and it does matter who gives you feedback. It's important who you ask. If there's somebody you respect, hey, tell me what you really think, but get ready, right? Get ready for the good, the bad, and the ugly, because sometimes, like I said, it's not going to be comfortable.
Yeah, and you mentioned bringing into balance our strengths, and you didn't use the word weaknesses, but maybe where we're not as strong, right? It's like, that you're a very empathetic, communal person, and so you've been deliberate about developing your agency. And I think that's important too. It's like, when you get that feedback, you become more aware of where those buckets might need a little more filling to bring you into balance. Right.
And the more, these are all, when I say capabilities, those are muscles. There's a change management capability, there's leadership capabilities, but these are all capabilities that we can all learn. And the one that I think Jason knows is the one I'm most passionate about is emotional intelligence. And that is one that each one of us can really grow on. So, I encourage you to read up on it. I'm happy to come back and really talk about emotional intelligence because it's such a capability that accelerates your growth and potential no matter where you are in your life. And it to me, it has brought a lot of richness to my work relationships, but even at home. As I got older, and again, my husband and I just completed our 10th year anniversary, emotional intelligence, I've grown up a lot. I was a nagger. I would nag a lot. But that's self-awareness, right? That's self-awareness. And it's great. People can say, I'm self-aware, I'm self-aware. Great. What are you going to do about that? That's a self-regulation. What are you going to do about it, right? So I stopped nagging. I started saying, am I nagging? Yes, I am. So I did a different approach, right? And I'll say this story really quick about change. I do this all the time. I tell this story all the time and my husband's a good sport, so he knows about the story. He's from the military, he retired military, and when he would put his clothes, it wouldn't go in the hamper, it would go on the floor. And and so for a long time I would nag him, like, oh my God, put the clothes in the hamper. It was really, my approach was nagging, and I wasn't effective. And I said, gosh, why doesn't he put the clothes in the hamper? And so I thought to myself, I need to, I'm nagging. Who's going to want to listen to me, right? So I did it a different way. I said, why am I asking him? I said, I really want him to help me. I'm asking for help, right? Because if it's in the hamper, I can carry the hamper to the washing machine and it makes it easier for me. So I said, babe, can you help me? And he goes, what I need you to do, if you can put it in there, then I told him the story why. It's like, then I can carry the hamper all at one time and I can do it quicker and be able to wash your clothes. And he goes, yes, I can help you. 180, and this was years ago. I will tell you now we're at 85% in the hamper. I'll take it, right? I'll take it. But that was a big shift in the way I approached things. And it was because I was more self-aware, I self-regulated, and I used a different approach, and it wasn't about Mari, it was about the bigger picture and inviting him to come help me. So that was a very powerful exercise and a story, and it happens all the time. So in my everyday life, I use that mindset and emotional intelligence and change management on how I interact with people. It matters. It really matters because I'm respecting him as an individual on what I'm asking him for. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I feel like we will have you back, Mari, and you could speak to us about mindset, the importance of mindset, about emotional intelligence, becoming a mentor. I feel like there's just a lot that we can continue to learn from you. And thank you for being willing to share your insight.
I appreciate it. And just know, I know a lot of you are new here. My story is there's a lot of tragedy in my life that I didn't share, but it has made me the woman that I am today, from domestic violence to drugs to, being humiliated to discrimination. All of that has been in my journey, but it doesn't, I'm not a victim of circumstance, right? What did I learn from that? And I'd like to talk about it because I know a lot of people have. And when I told my story one time about domestic violence and where I grew up with my father and my mother, and my father, his Hispanic and machismo and all that good stuff, he would drink and he would get so drunk that he would abuse my mom physically in front of us, and to the point where he would literally drag my mom in front of the yard. This is us watching him, by her hair. Today she has wigs. And he's passed, may he rest in peace. But I learned a lot from that I could have gone and felt in the same cycle, right? To where I thought that was normal, and I didn't. And I didn't because my mom put her hands up, and there was a defining moment in my life when I saw her say no more. And did she get beat up for it? Yes. Does she have scar for it? Yes. But then after that, she became more and more independent. There's a whole story behind that. But I tell you this because all of us have stories that make us who we are. So I embrace them. I used to be embarrassed to tell those stories and talk about that abuse. But when I talk about them, I have women come up to me. It's like, I would have never thought a vice president would have been in this situation. I would have never thought you live that life, but that's the reality. Many of us have similar stories, and so, but we overcome them, and that's the I want to offer everyone when we share. So I'll pause there. I know we're over time, but thank you so much for having me today.